everybody. So basically all month long, Nintendo fans, such as myself, have been waiting to see if Nintendo would announce a Nintendo Direct. And this morning we actually did get one announced. But it's not exactly the Direct most were anticipating. So let's talk about what's going on with this June 2022 Nintendo Direct stuff. Generally, every year in June, we get a Nintendo Direct. However, these June Directs usually coincide with E3. They are our annual E3 Nintendo Direct. But this year, E3 was cancelled. So without an E3 this year, everyone's been wondering if Nintendo would still give us a Direct in June like they usually do. Normally, Nintendo Directs are announced only a few days ahead of time. But because E3 has like a set schedule, when it comes to the annual E3 Nintendo Direct, we know the date of the Direct like months in advance. That's the real bonus with the E3 Directs in my opinion, knowing about them way ahead of time. Plus, E3 Directs are usually when Nintendo drops major news. Big game reveals and showcases tend to be at the E3 Directs. That's where the huge, exciting announcements often happen. I can't believe it's been 3 years since, like, Banjo got announced for Smash. That was in a E3 Nintendo Direct. E3 will be returning next year, so we'll probably know about next year's E3 Direct way ahead of time once again. But this year we entered June not sure if there'd be any Direct from Nintendo at all whatsoever this month. Though most were assuming Nintendo would still do something for us, despite the E3 cancellation. Other companies got around the E3 cancellation by showcasing their games in other events. We had the Summer Game Fest on June 9th, and there was an Xbox and Bethesda game showcase on June 12th and the 14th. Last year, the E3 Nintendo Direct was on June 15th. So initially, a lot of people were assuming that might be when Nintendo would do a June Direct again this year, around the 15th. Or at least that might be the week Nintendo chooses to do a June Direct this year. So I saw a lot of people guessing a June 15th Nintendo Direct at the beginning of this month. However, then a rumor popped up about a potential Direct date. So this is a Go Nintendo article, and it says, rumor, very strong evidence points to a Nintendo Direct on June 29th, 2022. Alana Pierce, former game journalist, IGN, Rooster Teeth, Funhouse, and current game writer, Sony Santa Monica, hosted a live stream today to share her thoughts on the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase. After she was done talking about the event, she made quick mention of other events coming up. This is when Alana noted that a Nintendo Direct is coming on June 29, 2022. This mention caught some people in her Twitch chat off guard, and they asked for clarification. Pierce went so far as to double-check her calendar to reconfirm the June 29th date. She also noted that she didn't get this information from Nintendo themselves, but with Alana's many years spent in the game industry on both the press and development side, it's easy to guess that an inside source shared it with her. Just to be clear, Alana doesn't seem to present this information as speculation. She comes off extremely confident in this Nintendo Direct happening, and I'd say she's quite a trustworthy source. Alright, so Alana is saying a Nintendo Direct on June 29th. Then I saw a lot of places covering this June 29th Direct date. It's worth noting June 29th is also Nintendo's 82nd annual general shareholders meeting. So a bit strange a Direct would be happening on that same day. A day or so beforehand might make more sense. Get the announcements out there to the fans during a Direct to generate buzz before talking to the shareholders. But hey, time zones and stuff can be weird, so the exact date aside, around the 29th is the rumored Nintendo Direct here. So after we had people guessing at June 15th, and then we had rumors of a June 29th potential Nintendo Direct, I tweeted this out. Nintendo Direct June 29th believers versus June 15th believers. Where are the June 22nd believers at? Can we get all 3 Wednesdays competing against each other? And then this morning, Nintendo of America tweeted out, tune in on June 22nd at 7 a.m. PT for a live-streamed #Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct presentation featuring roughly 20 minutes of information about the upcoming RPG adventure for #Nintendo Switch.
I'm a psychic and you aren't. I have super awesome powers, you don't.
So yeah, as it turns out, June 22nd will be the date of a Direct. However, it's a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct and not a general Nintendo Direct. This is kind of an odd one because, and I hate to say this, but I don't think it pleases very many people. Those waiting for a general E3-like Nintendo Direct obviously want more than just information on Xenoblade Chronicles 3 stuff. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 fans actually might not want to even watch this one, as the game releases in late July 29th, only about a month away. Nintendo has been tweeting out a lot of stuff about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 lately, and I know a lot of people waiting for this game who'd rather not learn much more about this game before they play it. They want to be surprised by the story and stuff. So, I don't know, I'll definitely check out the Direct, but it's certainly an odd move, as I don't think it pleases very many people. Anyway, now that the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct has been announced, people are wondering if we should still be expecting a general Nintendo Direct this month, or is this all we're going to get? Is the June 29th Direct rumor still in play here? Actually, if there is a general Nintendo Direct happening next week, splitting the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 content off into its own Direct might make a lot of sense, as it would be a way for people who don't want to be spoiled on the Xenoblade 3 stuff to be able to watch the general Direct and potentially avoid spoilers by not watching the Xenoblade Direct. I don't know, just a thought. So anyway, besides my tweet adding a June 22nd Direct to a guest at Direct dates for this month, did anyone else actually predict this one? Well, actually this morning over on 4chan, someone wrote this a few hours before we got the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct announced. Twitter post by Nintendo today announcing a 20-minute Xenoblade 3 Direct for Wednesday. Game won't appear in the actual Direct next week, except for a final story trailer. So they got the date, June 29th, the game, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and the time frame, 20 minutes for this Direct, all correct. And this post is saying next week is a general Direct, and Xenoblade 3 won't be a focus, it'll just have a final story trailer during that Direct. This is a 4chan post, so grain of salt as always, but pretty accurate, so make the call if you believe this one or not for yourself. Personally though, I think it's a pretty good post and has a lot of correct information, so yeah, might be right about a Direct next week. We also have Nate the Hate over on Twitter posting, there is still a Direct presentation for later this month. And Jeff Grubb tweeted, this fits with what I heard about Nintendo doing their summer showcases in bits and pieces. I still expect more news later this month. And also an interesting tweet from Jeff Keighley. They wrote, looks like Nintendo is splitting up its news in June. Xenoblade Direct coming on Wednesday morning. That certainly makes it sound like there's more news coming if something is being split up here. After posting that though, Jeff deleted that tweet and changed up their wording, posting this instead. For all those wondering what Nintendo would do this month, Nintendo has announced a Xenoblade specific Direct for Wednesday. And then Jeff replied to their own post and wrote, seems Nintendo is splitting up its news versus one main Direct this month? ? So I don't know if he slipped up with that first post and realized he gave away that there'd be more Nintendo news coming and decided to delete it, or if he just realized the way he phrased it made it sound that way, like he knew something more was happening when he actually doesn't know anything. But after deleting that first post, his second post is way more ambiguously phrased. It's a more ambiguously phrased version of what he first wrote, which sounded way more definitive. This one has like the question mark when mentioning other Nintendo news this month. So either way, if it was a mistake giving away information and Jeff actually knows about Nintendo's plans, or if it was just a badly worded post and he decided to delete and change it, I don't know, but either way seems actually pretty probable to me. So I don't think we can use Jeff deleting that first tweet as a definitive thing, meaning that there'd be more Nintendo news this month. Regardless, though, with Alana's original June 29th leak, several people talking about a Direct still likely happening in the following weeks of this month, and that 4chan post this morning predicting that the June 22nd Xenoblade Direct was going to happen and how long it would be, and also saying there'd be another general Nintendo Direct happening next week. I do think with all that in mind, a true general Nintendo Direct happening next week seems pretty darn likely to still be happening. Now later on this week, we have Fire Emblem 3 Hopes being released. That's on Friday, June 24th. So if there's a Direct next week, nothing more than maybe a reminder that this game is out would probably be in that Direct. They probably wouldn't focus much on 3 Hopes. However, we actually have a leak for a new Fire Emblem game right now. So this one started with Emily Rogers posting some information, and they wrote, here's what I can share about the new Fire Emblem game. Upcoming Fire Emblem is a new game, not a remake, brand new story. Collaboration between Intelligent Systems, Koei Tecmo, and Gust, division of Koei Tecmo Holdings. Gust heavily assisted with the visual graphics. Graphics are an improvement over 3 Houses. Originally intended as an anniversary game to celebrate Fire Emblem's 30th anniversary, the game has been finished for over a year. Main character, Main Lord, has strange red and blue hair. His mother is a dragon. New Fire Emblem's gimmick allows players to summon Fire Emblem characters from the past for your squad. I don't plan to share any more details about this game. Many months ago, @NateDrake teased about red and blue, probably referring to the hair of the main character. Shortly after that, a Reddit thread showed up that actually had screenshots of this supposed game. So here's a bunch of the Reddit post information, lots of stuff there. Feel free to pause this video and check it out. I'm not going to read through all of that. And here's the screenshots. The biggest thing being we can see that main character that does have red and blue hair. So if there is a Direct next week, I'd assume we'd hear about this Fire Emblem game during that. Also, the Reddit leaker claimed that a remake of Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War is also in development by Gust, so that could be happening as well, especially if this game does get officially announced and turns out to be real. And of course, if we do get a new Fire Emblem game announced in an upcoming Direct, that would mean Sakurai must also be working on Smash again in order to add these new Fire Emblem characters to the game. He couldn't possibly resist the temptation to add more Fire Emblem characters to Smash. No, but seriously, we could actually see some Smash news at a Direct if there is one next week. Min Min was the last amiibo released, and the Steve and Alex amiibo actually got delayed. I wonder if they got delayed to add Enderman and Zombie and make it a 4-pack? I don't know, it would be cool though if that was the case. Also, speaking of Min Min, could we see something ARMS potentially? There is a little bit of a pattern going on here. But we haven't seen these sculpts for Sephiroth, Pyra and Mithra, and Kazuya yet at all. So I could totally see them reminding us the Steve and Alex amiibos are coming and showcasing the sculpts for the further amiibo for Smash Ultimate during a Direct. We still don't even know for sure whether Sora is getting an amiibo or not, so that's another possible Smash-related announcement we could get in a Direct. Though I think there's actually another very likely Smash thing we could see. So our latest Nintendo Switch Online N64 game is Pokemon Snap. Pokemon Snap was the last of the N64 games that we knew were coming to the NSO when they first announced it. They said there'd be more games coming, and they showed off a number of what those future titles would be, and Pokemon Snap is the last one. We've exhausted all the ones they showed to us, so a Direct would be a good place to potentially show off more future NSO N64 titles and give us an idea of what other games we could be seeing in the future. For instance, GoldenEye 64, anyone? Well, I think Smash 64 could be among those future titles as well. Being on NSO could mean it might also have online capabilities. So I could actually potentially see Sakurai showing up in a Direct to announce this is coming, a Smash 64 NSO game that has online support, and maybe also he could show off some more of the amiibo sculpts during a Direct as well. Of course, announcing a Fighter Pass Volume 3 would be incredible, but I personally doubt that would happen anytime soon, if at all ever. Though never say never with that stuff, as we did get Mario Kart 8 DLC years later after, we definitely thought we weren't going to get any more Mario Kart 8 DLC. So maybe a Fighter Pass Volume 3 could happen one day. But again, I wouldn't expect it this year if it ever does happen. I think if we get anything Smash this year in a Direct, it would be amiibo news and maybe Smash 64 on NSO with online capabilities. That's the Smash news I think we might see in a Direct. Of course, there are plenty of other games besides Super Smash Bros. I'd love to see. Breath of the Wild 2 is my most wanted game right now. Sadly, it was delayed until spring 2023. But we've all been dying for any news about this game that we can get our hands on. There's just such little information out there. Anything we hear is like a major deal. We don't even have a proper title for this game yet, keep in mind. I will say the E3 Direct before we got the first Breath of the Wild game gave us a ton of information and gameplay that we could dig into waiting for Breath of the Wild. We're in the same time frame right now, June this year before a spring release for Breath of the Wild 2. It's the same time frame we got a bunch of information for the first Breath of the Wild. So I'd be ecstatic if we got a huge information dump for Breath of the Wild 2 in a Direct. That would absolutely make the Direct for me. I wouldn't even need anything else shown off. That would be enough. There are also rumors that the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD games that were on the Wii U could potentially be ported to the Switch. Imran Khan guessed about that, and Jeff Grubb has mentioned them as well. Does seem like a decent way to give us some Zelda titles to tide us over before Breath of the Wild 2. Otherwise, we have no Zelda games at all coming out this year after Breath of the Wild 2 has been delayed. When usually they've been giving us something Zelda each year as we've waited for Breath of the Wild 2. So the HD Wii U Zelda games ported to the Switch, being released like this fall or the holiday season this year, would fill the Zelda gap left by Breath of the Wild 2 being delayed. We'd still get some Zelda titles this year. We also, of course, have Splatoon 3 releasing on September 9th. So I'd expect if we get a Direct next week, they'd really start the hype train for Splatoon 3 during that Direct, probably culminating in a September Direct right around the release of Splatoon 3. Also, it's pretty cool all the old weapons are returning day 1 this time for Splatoon 3. I'm pretty happy to hear that. Alright, so what else could we see from Nintendo in a Direct? Well, we could get a definitive release date for Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. That game was supposed to release in April, but Nintendo decided to delay it due to recent world events. And we still don't know when they plan to actually release that game. So I could see them having a date to give us for when they plan to actually release that one in this rumored upcoming Nintendo Direct. Not exactly a video game, but something else that was delayed was the Mario movie. A lot of delays from Nintendo lately, now that I'm really thinking about it all. Anyway, we really haven't seen anything of the Mario movie yet, so maybe a short teaser could happen in a Direct. I doubt a full-blown trailer would happen since it got delayed, but maybe a quick, animation of Mario hyping up the movie, reminding us that it's happening, and maybe we get to quickly hear Chris Pratt's take on the Mario voice or something, get to hear what that sounds like. That would be cool to get, in my opinion. There are also some other big names that are supposedly coming out this year, but we don't have release dates for them yet, like Bayonetta 3 and Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So maybe we could see some more from those titles and get some exact dates for when they'll release nailed down. We could also potentially see something for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, some stuff for that briefly, as they seem to be the big Nintendo Switch holiday title this year. But usually the Pokemon Company does stuff in their own presentations and not during Nintendo Directs, so if Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are in this Direct, I wouldn't expect to see much beyond a quick reminder that the games are happening and coming out later this year. Of course, since this rumored Direct is possibly this year's equivalent of an E3 Nintendo Direct, other surprising huge announcements could happen here as well. Like seeing anything from Metroid Prime 4. That game's been in the works for a long time, and we still haven't seen anything. Or other totally surprising stuff, like something new from the Donkey Kong series, or the Star Fox series, or even the F-Zero series. Or something like Mario Odyssey 2 getting announced. Maybe finally a true Pikmin 4 announced. Or make me really happy and give me anything Punch-Out. Port the Wii Punch-Out game to Switch, I don't care. Anything for Punch-Out would make me really happy. If we're guessing way out there stuff, how about giving us Mother 3? Alright, so I could wildly speculate all day, but let's wrap up this video. It does seem like there's a lot of stuff pointing to a potential general Nintendo Direct happening next week. Personally, I do think that seems pretty likely to me. But what do you guys think? Do you think the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct we're getting this week is going to be the only Direct from Nintendo we're going to get in June? Or do you think all these rumors of another Nintendo Direct, a general Nintendo Direct, closer to something like we usually get for E3, could happen later this month? If you have any thoughts or comments about any of the stuff I talked about in this video, leave them below.
Remember to like the video, leave a comment in the section below, and subscribe to PapaGenos!
Twitter, Patreon, Discord, Twitch.